Hey everyone, Kelly here, coming to you with another installment of virtual teaching. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about the relational leadership model because, as you'll read in the article this week, that when you look at the last 20 years, there's been a real focused on relational leadership theories. And the reason is that people are really coming to terms with that leadership happens in the context of relationships. We are not leading when we are alone. Very rarely. It always happens in the context of groups and others. So how we relate to people matters. So this is a theory that was developed, and I'm going to take you through it because there's a lot of good pieces through the 5 components that could help you look at how to be in good relationship with others that you're leading. So there is a definition here that leadership is a relational and ethical process of people together attempting to accomplish positive change. And that could be, anyone in the organization, not just the person with the positional leader. I'm going to take you through the components. So there are 5 components that you'll see they're related to the definition. So leadership is purposeful, inclusive, empowering, ethical, and process-oriented. So purposeful means that there's vision and it's building commitment towards that positive vision. It includes other people and diverse points of view. It's not like one person saying this is how it's going to be and everybody follow me. It's bringing other folks in. It empowers those involved, so it just doesn't tell them what to do, but it helps them reach their potential and using their skills. It's ethical, meaning that it's based in values and morals. And then all of those 4 elements are accomplished by being process oriented, which means really focusing on how we do things, not just what we do. And we're going to go into those in more detail. But first, let me say that each of those areas is broken down into knowledge, attitudes, and skills that you would have to be ethical, purposeful, empowering, inclusive. And we're going to break those down today too. And so leaders need to have actual tangible skills and knowledge. They also should have attitudes or beliefs that are congruent with their organization, so values and self-knowledge. And then skills, the things that you do, like that you actually demonstrate to others, would be in the skill area. The Army talks about knowing, being, doing, or they say know, be, do is a phrase coined in the Army. Also, Parker Palmer, who's a well-known teacher, talks about head, heart, and practice. And so that these knowledge, attitudes, and skills are interrelated. So the knowledge you possess can influence your ways of thinking and can also influence your actions. So all 3 of these work in tandem. All right, so we're going to start with purpose. So relational leadership is purposeful. So it means that you have a commitment to a goal or an activity, and that is that you know where you're going. You have a destination. You have a chart or not a chart, but you have a map that you know that you're going towards. And that purpose is a core element of leadership. And that purpose, around vision can happen 2 ways. So personalized vision is when you have a vision and you basically impose that on others, or you say, here's where we're going, come along. A socialized vision is when you're like, where should we go? And you take input from other people in the group and you try to involve maybe not every single person, but from different parts of the organization to build more of a socialized vision. Or it could be a collaborative vision if you don't like the word socialize. And that whatever your purpose is, that vision is a driving force that guides everything that you do. It's all tied back to where are we going at the root. So what you should know is you should have insight into your own purpose and actions. Like, why do you do the things that you do? And then also knowing how, how vision works, how to goal set, things like that. You should have an attitude of hope. So that hope being optimistic that you can move forward and working together, and an ability to commit. So once you set a course, that you're willing to follow that. And things that you can do is help others in your organization or your group set goals, to be consistently motivating and inspiring others to do their best and keep towards the purpose. All right, next, relational leadership is inclusive. So this means that you understand and value and actively engage diversity in a group. And we're not just talking about like race and gender and class. We're also talking about views, approaches, styles that people have. Not everybody thinks the same. Not everybody works the same, and that you would value different ways of doing work. Or communicating. You can model and communicate inclusiveness through the practices and customs that you have. So how you set up your work, how you evaluate your work, you can be modeling inclusivity. And this is interesting. It's involving the stakeholders in and outside of your group. So of course, bringing in people within your organization in different areas, different positions, but also thinking about folks that are impacted by your organization or group, or that you're impacted by, that you might include them in their interests, their values, and or keep perspective of them, if nothing else. And the focus on unity is not necessarily like, oh, we're all going to be the same or all be happy and kumbaya. It's that you see that the parts are connected, almost like a web, and that you see that it's important for the different, whether it's departments or positions, that they be connected again to that common purpose. That's what we mean by unity. So things that you should know is understanding people, getting to know the individuality of members so you know what they're about, and managing multiple realities, not just your own. Valuing involvement and difference, truly valuing that, and it's important for inclusivity, and a focus on equity. And equity differs from equality in that equality is treating everybody the same, or always doing the same thing. Equity is doing what is needed or supporting a person in where they're at. Things that you can do are to model listening, model civil discourse, and really work to develop other folks' talent in your organization. Relational leadership is empowering. So empowering is twofold. So on one hand, you need to have self-confidence or the desire to be involved, or the expectation to be involved, but you also need an environment that encourages involvement and like promotes participation. So you can say, I really want to grow, develop, contribute, but your organization doesn't provide you opportunities to do that. So that is hard to be empowering. Or you could have an environment that really supports a lot of involvement and growth, but you're not ready for that yet, or you don't have the personal self-esteem or self-confidence. So both of those things happen in an empowering organization. And then really, I'm not going to go into depth about this, but I encourage you to look at power and be knowledgeable about how power works in individuals and organizations. There's expert, referent, legitimate, coercive, and reward-based power. And that really impacts how leadership happens and how group trust happens. So to know that there are many different kinds of power, and that empowerment is not about delegation. So delegation is just like, here, do this, I want you to do this by Tuesday or whatever. Empowerment is more matching people ideally with their skills and abilities, wanting to develop others, and making sure that they have the tools and the skills to do what you're asking them to do. So to be empowering, you want to know how power and influence works. And you also want to be developing your own self-knowledge and self-esteem. You're able to see the potential in everyone and the willingness and interest in sharing power. And that you model sharing information and bringing other people in. You're not just finite, like keeping everything to yourself. You're willing to share that with others and invite them into the process. Relational leadership is ethical, so it's driven by values and standards, both your own and the organization's. That relational leadership is good in nature, like moral in nature. So ethics is around group standards that govern behavior, versus morals is around the difference between right and wrong, and that you're using good means to a good end. And it involves a lot of leading by example. So congruency is when what you say or what you believe matches what you do. You're not saying, I believe in recycling or you should recycle, but I don't do that at my own home. It's a very simplistic example. For an ethical leader would know their own beliefs, know their values and their principles, and be aware of those, and also those of the organization. They're worthy of trust. They're trustworthy. People know that they can count on them. And they also model the ability to confront unethical practices. This does happen, and you can sweep it under the rug or not address it, or you can be brave and courageous and confront that, cut it off early. And then finally, relational leadership is about process. So process is how a group goes about being a group. So how you do what you do, like how do you make decisions? How do you communicate? How are you going to make this product? How are you going to do your job? It involves recruitment and involvement of members. And again, it's how we do things, how we work together. It's intentionally designed. So whether you're in law enforcement or teaching or business, you're going to have different processes. And ideally, you design the processes to help that particular group with that particular vision accomplish your goals. And there's a real emphasis on cooperation and collaboration. So you should know how process influences outcomes and be understanding of systems perspectives. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. You value process. That means like you are not just task oriented, but you care about how you do things. And then you're able to trust the process too once it's set. And things that you model are group reflection, civil confrontation, giving and receiving feedback, and implementing reflective processes. So the reflection is a big thing, to be willing to stop once in a while and say, how are we doing? What's going well? What's not going well? What have we designed that we want to keep doing? What do we need to change? So if you create a map for where you want to go, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, the conditions change. Do you still follow that same map, or do you adjust it? That's a metaphor around process. So in closing, to think about your own strengths and areas for growth as a leader. So when you think about those 5 components, ethics, purpose, empowerment, inclusivity, and process orientation, which of those do you do best, and which of those would you need to develop more? And how do you know that you do well with some? Have you gotten feedback, or have you had bad experiences or good experiences? And then if there's areas that you want to develop, are there specific things that you can do, like things you want to learn or things that you want to practice modeling? It's food for thought. That's it for now. You're going to be diving into this a little bit more for one of your discussion questions this week. I'm always happy to talk more with folks. I have lots of resources if you want to learn more about relational leadership, or if you have questions about it, or if there's things that you don't agree with. Let me know and we can dive in more. All right, thanks. Bye.